My name is John Francis.
And I'm Brandon Sauerborn. And our
Uh,
final project was the HIT calculator. And so, some motivation for our project, essentially, what we attempted to create was a human intelligence task calculator Chrome plugin that allowed users to see if a hit was essentially worth their time. And some of you may ask why we wanted to do this as our final project. Well, workers are not able to utilize MTurk as a full-time job because of time wasted browsing for hits, or even settling for lower paying options. They end up settling for those that pay well below minimum wage given the time and money spent. And we felt that this would greatly help the MTurk workers in the future save both time and money. So some overview and background. So what has been done before, kind of in this calculator realm. Um, I guess we found that MTurk workers are technically able to calculate the money they would make given a certain hit. I know the interface allows them to say exactly how long it is and how much money they would make, but there are some factors missing. Our calculator incorporates external factors such as time and expenses. Also, the plugin we created offers simplicity for workers to insert only a few numbers, and then that algorithm will inform them whether or not it is financially smart to complete the task or not. From previous experience, I found myself spending more time looking for a hit than actually completing one for money. I know we had that assignment task with earlier in the semester, and that was one of the main things that we both found were complications. So, moving on to our scope, what did we do slash accomplish? We essentially developed an algorithm, as we mentioned, takes into account the time it takes to complete a hit and the dollar amount the worker would be receiving, subtracting any taxes or expenses. Um, and then once it determines whether or not the task is minimum wage for the worker, our plugin will spit out the words worth it or not worth it. And finally, our method. How did we accomplish this? We used HTML, JavaScript, and CSS while utilizing a plugin that is easily accessible for workers on MTurk. And we essentially had to self-teach ourselves this code. And now we will get into a little more detail about this code and exactly the plugin that we came up with.
Alright, so when we began this project, we didn't really have a visual idea of what we wanted to do, so we kind of just built a calculator from scratch. We did, as Brennan said, we had to learn the code ourselves, since neither of us were proficient in HTML, CSS, or Java, so what you're seeing basically is our first version of the plugin, and it was riddled with errors. We struggled with a lot of JavaScript. That was our big problem getting that to work. However, we changed up the design so it was a lot simpler and made more sense and outright for the workers. And like the slide says, it's originally what our calculator looked like, and then we eventually had to rewrite the code. So the HTML for our calculator is displayed on this page. It's nothing too long, nothing too crazy, but it's just the design of our plugin, and basically it's a small window size. You can tell by the style on the bottom is what we used to develop the plugin window. When you click on the little $ button in the corner, which I think HTML was a little difficult for us to learn because we didn't really know how to incorporate and integrate the other two languages with it to make it work effectively. But towards the end, we were able to essentially get it working. And so the next slide we have is just the design for our calculator. So the text view is where the MTurk worker would put in their number of dollars per hit, which would be 0.04. And then in the next text view window, they would put in the amount of minutes times or amount of minutes per hit that they were taking. And then we would practically just multiply it by 60. So the next is the JavaScript, which is the biggest challenge for us this entire project. So while we were able to get the algorithm working for opening it onto like a web browser page, it would work, output. When we would move it over into the plugin, we were still having errors, kind of like the first version of it, which really kind of set us back a little bit, and we weren't essentially ever able to get it completely working. I think there were some permission issues with Google and privacy. It was giving us weird error codes. But I think another problem that we had, not really a problem, but something we looked into, was how much minimum wage was. And that was because every state is a different minimum wage. So we kind of just settled on an average of $8 per hour. So as you can see in the function, the worth it function down there, the money variable is greater than or equal to 8. So that is, if a person's hit was going to take that long per minute, then the text would display worth it. And if it did not, it would display not worth it. And it would be very easy for them to read. After that, we have our plugin manifest, which is what you need when you're making the plugin. And it basically just gives Google instructions on what to name the plugin, its description, its author, its icons, the little dollar picture for the plugin, and how it interacts with the browser. So under our final product and results, as you can see on the screen in the top right in the window, we have the red. The red text box is the dollar amount per hit, and then there's a little multiplication symbol, and then you plug in the minutes, and that is then equals the dollars per hour. You can't see it right now, but we do have a placeholder that makes it even easier that says an example, and then it says 0.03. So it gives the users a very easy, how to plug in their numbers correctly. And then you just click calculate, and then on the bottom there is a notification that says not worth it because it didn't reach the $8 mark. But essentially that is our hit. So yeah, that's kind of an explanation of it.
Alrighty, and then some reflection takeaways throughout our process of this final project. Personally, with MTurk takeaways, we felt that Turk workers just simply didn't make enough money, and there needed to be an easier way for workers to find a hit that was essentially worth their money. I know a lot of them use full-time jobs, so that was our attempt. And then for our own personal challenges and lessons learned, we found that obviously rewriting code is definitely no easy task, especially when utilizing it in a plugin. I think we documented that. Also, Amazon MTurk has plenty of interface design flaws that we feel should be improved in the future. We tried to assist in one of those aspects, but there's a lot more that could be done with that interface. And then ultimately, we believe that this calculator will significantly save MTurk workers both time and money for the future. And then here are some additional resources we found. And then that's it.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.